Hi there, welcome to Noise interview number 11 with Don Powell, Slade, and also myself, Ian Edmondson and Chris Selby. We're going to start this session off with questions about 1977, and we start off with questions about the first few months of the year when Slade were in America.
I mean, the thing is, we had our own apartments at the time, so which was quite nice, and we were basically just sitting around. Peter Cove, who was like our agent over there, or our man over there, he actually had a meeting with us, and he just said, "I can't get you any more work." He said, "There's nothing else there. You know, I can't get you any more work." And so that's when we came back to England.
Do you think you'd have kept going at it if there'd been more work on the table?
I suppose, but I think the thing is here, I mean, until you go over there, when you're doing it, you don't realise how big that place is.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I mean, we had some great times around the St. Louis area of the Midwest, but that means nothing. It means nothing at all. You know, it's got to be total nationwide, like especially East Coast and West Coast especially. You know, San Francisco was pretty good for us. But the rest, I mean, we really spent some time over there that we needn't have done, to be quite honest. You know, we should have knocked it on the head ages before, you know, nothing was happening. You know, I mean, we couldn't get radio play, anything like that. You know, How Does He Feel got quite a bit of radio play while we were over there. But that was in New York anyway, you know, but it really was. It was like we should have knocked it on the head a long time before we did. You know, to be quite honest, you know, we spent fortunes over there because we had all our equipment there, all the road crew, you know. So I mean, it just worked out so expensive.
So the first record you released in '77 was the Gypsy Roadhog single.
Yeah.
Which got to a lowly number 48 in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that was I quite enjoyed recording that. You know, it's quite a good thing quite a nice song to record. I remember recording it. Was quite good fun recording it. And we all felt pretty good about it. But what label was that on?
That was on Barn. That was the first Barn single.
That was the reason. You know, I mean, sort of, it was quite sad because I don't know whether it was still being distributed by Polydor then, or whether it got its own distribution situation. But that's the biggest sort of hurdle, is to get a good distribution. It wasn't happening, and that was it. You know, and like you said, you were getting a little TV at the time. Well, remember, we've been away in the States. I mean, we were basically nothing when we came back, you know, and it was a hard slog, really. We actually went back to playing Bailey's clubs.
Yeah. We
did Bailey's Watford, Leicester, and one up north somewhere. But because I remember that was when we had the happy car and the hospital car.
Yeah. Well, you did the Bailey's circuit in '78.
Was it '78? Was it? Okay.
Yeah, because '77, which we'll get to it. Supporting the album, you did some European dates and a British theatre tour.
Is that whatever happened to Slade you talked about now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we must have. Did we start recording that in '77?
I think you would have done it in late '76 because Gypsy Roadhog was out in January. So.
Oh yeah, it would have been. It would have been then. It would have been '76 then. Actually, it was quite a good session to do that. Actually, you know, I mean, that's when we used Advision Studios, and we had a new engineer guy named Paul, and he was. Well, you can tell by the sound, he was a bit more heavy on the sound. You know, when we made that album, I mean, a lot of that was our American influence. You know, that album was very much American influence. You know,
it certainly was a different sound for Slade, because with Nobody's Fools, you'd gone more simplistic and a more laid back sound for America. And with Whatever Happened to Slade, it was the hardest hitting thing you'd done and the most complex thing since Play It Loud.
Yeah, it was quite heavy. That was, I think it was too heavy. It was too heavy for what people expected. I mean, I know for a fact that Chaz didn't like it. Chaz didn't like it at all, you know, and it was quite good, some good stuff. I quite enjoyed the recordings of it because it was a new thing for us, and also, like I said, a different studio and a different engineer, and a guy named Paul. But it was. It didn't happen. I mean, about the standout tracks. I mean, I quite like Big Apple Blues. I quite like that. That came about the obvious, you know, when we lived in New York. It was okay, but I mean, it wasn't particularly us, if you know what I mean. It was like a very much American influence.
No, I was just going to say B in line in Never Starts Twice. I always thought it was fantastic. It wasn't.
That was a great song to play on stage. That was.
Yeah, but the way it's whatever the word is,
segued
into the second track, you know, it was for Slade. That was, I don't know what's going on here. It was totally, to me, totally different.
Yeah, it was a good song to play. That was. It was a good song. Some things on there, but it wasn't quite us in a way. There's certain things that I think we tried to do. We go a bit too heavy straight away, on a lot of American influence.
Do you think you needed the progression? You'd been away.
I think we needed to. We definitely needed to. A bit of progression anyway.
Yeah, you couldn't have come back after the space and done another Slade or another old new boat. You couldn't have done that.
Definitely couldn't, but it didn't work. It didn't work, Chris. It's strange. We thought that, people, because we've been away, and like you say, we couldn't come back and do the same old thing. And doing this out, it didn't work. It sounded great in the studio. I actually really enjoyed recording that, but it was, it didn't work.
Why do you think you didn't get something like the old grey whistle test?
Pass. I just don't know. I think. See, the thing is that'll be all down to the record. I don't know. See, Chaz was still looking after us then. I mean, normally he'd have like a plugger to do things like that. There's a guy named Alan James who used to do a lot, you know, but that never happened. It never happened. So, I mean, they could have not wanted us as well. You know, they've got to want you, sort of thing. You know, but I mean, I remember. I think I told you before. Whatever happened to Slade? Chaz had some guy do graffiti on some of the bridges and some of the places around London, and I think it was on one of the bridges. Somebody had put, they've done whatever happened to Slade, and someone had painted after it pass. So I don't know who, some member of the public had put pass and painted it. It was great, that was.
The thing is, though, you had asked for what you got to an extent in the UK because you'd gone away and tried abroad. Yeah. You had to do it, but this was the unfortunate knock-on effect.
We couldn't have sort of carried on, like we was before. I mean, we would have probably got absolutely slaughtered if we'd have gone back to do the old stuff, without a change, sort of thing. And that was definitely an American influenced album.
Mm. I mean, there's a lot of funk and stuff in it, isn't there? B is a really funky track.
Yeah. I mean, all of it really. I sort of, there's like I said, it was American, and then we hadn't got a label over there at the time, so it would have been nice to see what the reaction would have been like over there with that album, because that's where it was all influenced from.
In the top right-hand corner of the album sleeve, wherever it is, in the top right-hand corner of the album sleeve, for people who have it at home, there it says Rock Street, it's a nice coincidence, perhaps, but.
No, Chaz found that. He found Rock Street, and we actually went there for the photograph.
Mm.
I can't actually remember where it was now, but it is an actual street.
Finchley, I think.
Sorry?
Finchley, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Do you think the album title, whatever happened, it's quite a negative title, isn't it? Whatever happened to Slade?
It was really. I mean, we sort of took it a bit tongue in cheek, Chris. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it, like I said, it did go against. I mean, it was totally left open for so many comments. You know,
Yeah.
about that, you know, it was like I said, it was painted on the walls, on the bridges across, and somebody put pass after it. You know, and. We left ourselves wide open for comments with that.
It's strange that your PR people and the pluggers and everything like that allowed that to happen. Somebody somewhere decided we're going to call this LP whatever happened to Slade.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, Jazz was such a strong personality to sort of to try and get him to, you know. I mean, it could have happened, Chris. You know, where people said you're doing the wrong thing, calling it this. You know, maybe that did happen. But Chaz would have overridden them, you know. So, but we did leave ourselves really wide open for criticism on that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about it is, years later, this is a lot of people's favourite album by Slade.
Yeah,
a lot of people's.
I think what it was, it sort of, it was at the time, it wasn't what was expected of us.
Mm.
I think that's what it was, and then they sort of grew to like it or grew to appreciate it, sort of thing. But I think at the time it wasn't what people expected. I think that's what it was more than anything.
What happened for me with it personally as a fan was I got the album, I took it home, I listened to it, and a couple of plays and it had grown on me, and I thought, this is amazing. It's so different. But the trouble is, there's an expectation from people who are programming radio in any country, you know, that something's going to, you can whistle it. And that is an album you can't whistle. No.
Well, it's like, I mean, I remember Chas saying one time, he said to me, there's no singles on the album.
There was.
You know, but that's what he said. I mean, Big Apple Blues I thought was great, a great track. It was great to play that. There's quite a few things I quite enjoyed playing on there. But you know, it was like we said before, we had to do something different. We couldn't go back to doing the same old thing. Otherwise, I think we would have been slated even more. You know, I think if we'd have gone back to doing the, you know, without not having a change, so to speak, you know. And it was Chaz's idea. Well, whoever it was anyway, Rock Street, you know, that was Chaz, you know, or whoever it was said having the photograph taken. I thought it was a great idea.
That would have been Jared Mankiewicz again, wouldn't it?
I don't know. It could have been between Chaz and Gerard. I don't know.
It was, yeah. He's on the back of the album. He's credited. Yeah,
but I mean, Chaz might have already told him about this Rock Street and go there to do photographs. You know, I mean, I don't know. But I really don't know, Ian.
Well, like I said before, the songs are so complex by comparison. And watching Slade on the tour when he did the theatre tour, doing things like B, with H, all of a sudden he comes on and he's shone a spotlight on his head and his hair's gone.
That's right, yeah.
And I didn't know his hair had gone. I hadn't seen it in the paper, and I nearly fell over.
Right, it could be. I know a lot of people. I always said it looked like the FA Cup. You got these ears, yeah, just look like the FA Cup. I tell you what you used to do. You used to have the risers on the side of the stage, right? And you used to go up on the risers, and the crew used to turn the spotlight down, like the backlight round, and his ears went really bright red because the light was shining through it. I mean, there is a photograph somewhere with it. His ears look like Spock. Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Like I always said, it looked like the FA Cup.
I mean, what prompted Dave to do that?
I don't know. I think he just wanted to change. Whether there was a lot of criticism about the way he looked before, I think it was just. I think that may have something to do with it as well. I don't know whether Chas said, you know, about you know, you should do it, and then he went and done it. Or Jan, his wife, you know, she was a hairdresser. You don't need to be a hairdresser to do that. You just need to slice it all off.
Yeah,
but it was great.
There was press photos of her doing it.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you what was great when we was on tour. He used to come down for breakfast with bits of paper stuck over his head. You know, when you you know when you have a shave and you cut yourself and put a bit of paper on, and that was the same piece of paper on his head when he cut himself.
Yeah.
It's funny how hair is a big thing in your career, all the way through for 60s when you were all the way through.
I know, like sort of like from the skinhead thing to, you know, sort of.
Before that, you did the thing when you went to the ladies' hairdresser, didn't you, in 65? As the original in-betweens, then the skinhead thing, then the growing out, then Dave's haircut itself, then the shaving. It's
I know.
loomed large.
Actually, you're right, Chris. It's been a bit of a feature all the way through, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember at Top of the Pops, we used to go to the bar afterwards, and Ray Davies from the Kings went and grabbed H's hair because he thought it was a wig. He went to pull it off, and it wasn't a wig, and it really hurt H. And it was great because Chaz got Ray Davies by the neck up the wall, was going to stick one on him. It was great. It was. But I mean, it really hurt H when he grabbed it because he thought he'd pull his wig off or something like that, but it wasn't a wig, and it really hurt H. And it was great when Chaz had him by the neck up the wall. Chaz was great then. I tell you what, he was our dad. He was our dad looking after us. Ian?
Ray Davies, over the years, he's managed to fall out with quite a few people, hasn't he?
I remember, I think it was, where was it? It was on the Finchley Road. I think it was, there's a few of us in there, and Ray Davies came in with his brother Dave, and Ray Davies was going with Chrissy Hine then.
Yeah.
And there's a punch up then, because I know that him and Dave always had a thing, you know, like that thing, and they started a punch up in the restaurant, and then ended up going out and fighting on the pavement outside. So, I mean, whether it was published, I don't know, but I know they always had a thing, the two of them.
One of the questions that one of the fans asked was that whenever you brought a new product out, certainly at the end of the Polydor period, you had a sticker going with it, like the I've Been Slade stickers.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And let's call it quit stickers.
Yeah.
Things like that. And somebody pointed out there was nothing like that with this at all.
Well, I think it was a bit of that as well. I mean, I think I don't really know. I mean, because I always thought those things were great. I mean, I know the kids love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to like it as well. It was great. I used to put it on my suitcase. I knew which was my suitcase at the airports. You know, you know what it's like. I mean, the time, the amount of suitcases that come around the belt all looking the same. Actually, somebody talking about the FA Cup. Steve Mexon, Les Mexon's son from in Wolverhampton, he painted the FA Cup on H's suitcase when he had his hair shaved up. And I used to put stickers on so I knew which was my suitcase. Because at times you're trying to find your suitcase and you're going around the belt while it's moving, pushing people out the way, trying to get your suitcase off the belt, you know. But they were good little things, weren't they, those, Ian?
Yeah.
Those stickers, yeah.
Nice little extras that people look forward to.
Kind of thing. Yeah, I still, when I see one recently, it wasn't whatever happened to Slade, but it was something, one of the stickers from from the 70s anyway, you know. So I thought, bloody hell, that did look pretty good.
Yeah. Well, the I've Been Slade one has been turning up again. Somebody's had some printed.
All right, okay. Yeah, but I think it was just a Slade I saw, or some kid had it somewhere. I don't know. Somebody had it, you know, sort of thing. I thought, yeah, they did look pretty good. They did look pretty good then, yeah.
Were there any discussions about any other singles coming off the album?
Of this one, you mean?
Yeah.
After Slade?
Yeah.
Well, Big Apple Blues was a contender for one. That was, and I think that was about it, really. Yeah, I think. Well, Gypsy Road Dog, obviously, but I think Big Apple Blues was a contender at one time.
Yeah.
I think that's about all, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, the songs that made it into your stage show as well. You know, the ones that stayed there. I mean, B was certainly there for a while.
Yeah.
One-Eyed Jacks with Moustaches hung around for a while. That was a great song.
Yeah.
The others really didn't stay afterwards.
We didn't. I don't think we played any others, did we?
You did on the actual tour for the album.
Yeah, did we play Big Apple Blues? I don't think we did we?
I don't think you did. You certainly played B and Lightning Never Strikes Twice.
Yeah.
You may have done Ain't Love Ain't Bad and Soul and Roll in Motion. You may have.
Did we play One Eye Jacks?
You certainly did. That stayed into the next year.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, strange. I mean, a lot of time we very rarely played any of our album tracks. It's really weird, that is. Yeah, we always resort back to the old stuff. Yeah, I mean, talking about like T-Rex, and he had his own TV show. Well, that was just him that won it when he had that TV show. I mean, the rest of the band weren't featured really.
Yeah, that Mark Bolan went off and managed to get a TV show, which was
If I remember, if I remember right, it wasn't that good though, was it? If I remember right, it wasn't that good, was it?
I think Mark's show. The thing about it now is you look back at it and you look back at it fondly because there he is, and you have to love the guy. And you look back at it and it's not the wobbly sets and the terrible links he did. It's not that. It's Mark Bolan still alive.
That's very well, because I mean he was the bee's knees at the time, wasn't he? So I suppose it was the obvious thing to do. But wasn't it on like a 5 o'clock slot?
Yeah, something like that.
It was a kiddies one, wasn't it? Like Flintlock and Kenny. And those Kenny had their own TV show, didn't
well, that's what that's who they put on that time slot, because that's who.
But he had some new wave stuff on as well, didn't he?
He had the Jam on.
He had the Jam people.
Generation X.
Yeah, he had some of the new wave stuff. The Jam, Generation X, people like that.
I saw the Jam at the Left Air Club in Wolverhampton before they were well known. They're bloody great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I saw them somewhere in Birmingham, I think. But they were good, yeah. Well, that goes sort of leads on to the punk thing again, doesn't it? You know, when you came back, back to England in '77, it was the Europunk.
Yeah.
How aware of it were you when you were back in England?
Well, we saw a bit of it, but we didn't really take that much notice of it. I remember seeing it in the press over in New York, sort of thing, but it didn't look very attractive to me, sort of thing. I thought, well, I can't see this bloody last, I think maybe it's just a total change from the glam rock stuff. I suppose that something had got to happen. It went from one extreme to the other, didn't it? But I mean, I used to go to the Music Machine quite a bit around that time, and I never really saw anybody, there that was of any one, you know what I mean, sort of thing. I'll tell you what I did see. It was at Lafayette as well, not Generation X. It was somebody, can't remember who it was now, but really good it was. They hit me a bit like Jam. The Jam hit me, sort of thing. I can't think of who it was now, but it was really good. But they weren't really punk. They weren't, sort of Powell going all over the place and all that kind of stuff. There
were a lot of punk bands who weren't really punk, were they? They were just fast rock and roll.
Do you remember, right? Chaz took on a punk band. Do you remember?
The Depressions. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, because I remember I don't know his name now, the drummer. I took him and got him a deal with Ludwig. Sort of thing. And I walked into Ludwig with this bloody guy with like sort of nuts and bolts through his nose and all that kind of thing. That's it. I didn't get him a deal, but it's all right. But yeah.
Well, I saw the Depressions supporting you at the Wolverhampton Civic.
Really?
And I actually met Chaz then, and he was stood at the side watching them, and he was so proud of them, and I was talking to him, and I was asking about you lot as well, and he loved you lot so much. He really did.
Yeah.
Well, always came out. He was so proud of you.
I'll tell you, it just remind you of a story. I don't know whether it's that gig, I don't know, but Chaz hadn't met my brother Derek at the time, right? And wherever it was, whether it was up on the balcony, Chaz happened to be standing next to Derek, my brother, you see, and he didn't know it was my brother. And I think Chaz innocently turned around to him and said, "What do you think?" He said, "Great." He said, "I actually sleep with the drummer." and Chaz came back later on. He said to me, "Is there something you haven't told me, Don?" Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah.
One thing I've got down here is in April you released "Burning in the Heat of Love" as a single, which didn't come off the album, which had only been out a couple of weeks at that point.
Yeah.
Straight away, you went for a non-album track again. What did you think of "Burning in the Heat of Love"?
To me, it wasn't a single really. I think mainly the thing is that we hadn't got anything else, and I wasn't with. It wasn't a single to me, you know. But we didn't have anything else. Not a lot. I mean, it wasn't one of my favourites. That one, you know. I can't really say that. Yeah. I used to play it at home, you know what I mean? I can't say I ever did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of my favourites, though.
Yeah. I mean, Nod was coming out with all these lyrics all through the album, and certainly on that single, and there was a very big sex angle on it, wasn't there? You know, it was very much the Jack the Lad and getting the girls thing.
I remember Chad saying in the studio when we was recording that, he kept on saying, all Nod writes about is getting his leg over. And he said, that's all he's doing, he's writing about getting his leg over.
We'll ask him about that then.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny the way Chad with the Geordie accent, all he's fucking doing is thinking about getting his fucking leg over. And it's quite funny the way Chad said it with the Geordie accent, you know.
What did you think when, you know, at this time when you were bringing these records out? Disco was also an enormous thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, you certainly weren't anything to do with disco.
It was the Saturday Night Fever time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, we were just battling on, really. I mean, it never, I don't think it really affected us in any way, Ian, you know, but we were just battling on in our own sort of, with our own egos just sort of going on, you know, sort of thing. It was as if we were totally oblivious to anything that was around us, you know.
Yeah.
Was that a group decision to do that, Don, to carry on? You saying you're oblivious and it was your own egos and all that. Yeah. Was that a group? Was that is that what you decided to do? That was you were going to be Slade in spite of everybody else.
I mean, there was never any other thought, Chris. There was never any other thought that we just carried on. I mean, okay, we did the Bailey's Club, but that was because, I mean, because it kept us playing, because we were gigs were very few and sparse between, and when we did some gigs in Europe, we were doing very tiny clubs and stuff like that, you know. But I mean, like I said, it kept us on the road, and it meant we could still pay a road crew.
Yeah,
you know, keep a road crew on retainers, basically, you know.
Yeah. What was morale like in the band, like at that time?
It was okay. Because we were just totally oblivious. We were just in our own little blooming bubble, you know. We were just going along, playing, having a great time. Actually, it was. I mean, it's one of the periods I enjoyed the most, because we weren't playing the theatres or the arena, not the arena, but the big gigs, and I really enjoyed it. Sort of just going on as if we were just starting, basically. I know we had all the hit records behind us, and we were still pulling crowds, really.
Oh yeah.
Do you think some of the pressure was off you then I
think that's probably what it was, Chris. The pressure was off, and we were having a great time. You know, we really were. But the morale was really good within the band, and no, it was good. We had nothing to prove anymore. Like you said, Chris, the pressure was off. And we were just, it was more or less like starting again in a way, but, you know, and we were having a great time.
Do you think that Nod and Jim felt that they could pull something out of the hat at some stage that would stick?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've always said that they've never really been given the true recognition for their writing, you know. No, I mean, I always, you know, always believed in them, you know, 100% the two with the writing and everything, you know, sort of thing. So the classic example was My Oh My. I mean, the demo I got to hear the song was just Jim on piano and not singing.
Yeah.
And and that's when RCA insisted that we use a producer and go to a real top studio, because they hated when we recorded at Portland. Because I mean, it was like it was probably great for the time. Quo used to do all their stuff there, and so did the Bee Gees earlier on. And it was a great studio there. It was. Have you ever been there, Ian?
No.
Did you ever go there? Well, it was. Did you ever go there, Chris?
No, mate.
No, it was a massive room. I mean, it was in a big office block in Portland Street. I mean, it was a big room. I mean, it could have been great, but it needed quite a bit of money spending on it. The only thing that was funny is, like, next door there was the Polish embassy, and we always had to stop recording around about 5 o'clock at night, because then when we first realised we were in the studio, and we thought, what's that bloody noise coming over the speakers? And it was Morse code. it was from the Polish embassy next door. They were sending the messages to wherever, and we had to stop recording for about half hour to an hour while they were doing all the Morse code messages. We could have probably made a fortune, or sold it to the sort of Secret Service in England, whatever they were doing. Yeah, we always had, because it was coming over the tannoys. If it had had some money spent on that studio, it would have been great. It's a great room, a big room, and the control room was really good, but Chaz never spent any money on it. And consequently, I mean, RCA hated us recording there, because they just, because that's all we knew. They said it's such an old studio and the sound is terrible. And when we had My Oh My and Run Away, that's when they insisted on using a producer, and John Punter was put forward. We never met him, never heard of him before. But I tell you, we were in, I think it was there. Well, we recorded My Oh My and Run Away in Rack Studios. And John was part of the Air Studios team. They were his management, you know, so the Oxford Circus. And then we started recording in Air Studios, which in those days, it's like in the 80s, was 200 quid an hour, right? 200 quid an hour plus, and then it was tape then, right? So plus tape, plus engineer, plus whatever. And we kept, and it was H especially kept on saying, just go around Portland and have a look. And well, I think part of the deal was that we used, that John was producing us. He had to use Air Studio because they were his management company. So that, anyway, he said, oh, okay, I'll go around and have a look at Portland. And anyway, the morning he went round, we were in the show, and he came back and he looked at it, he says, no fucking way. Because I mean, Air Studios was like going into NASA space station. I think there's 4 studios there. It's hard to imagine a studio. I think it was on the 5th or 6th floor. There's 4 studios there, and one is always closed down, being updated. That's what it was like then. The stuff was being updated all the time. Now this place was 200 quid an hour, right? Paul McCartney always used it, right? He probably got a deal, but he had it booked 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year in advance, in case he wanted to go in. He had the A studio booked, you know, like I said, 24 hours a day, and apparently his office would call a few weeks before, saying, no, he's not using it this time. But he was in there while we were doing some stuff. He was in there, and he was always on the bloody Space Invaders. You know, sort of was out in the canteen on Space Invaders, and then somebody shout, Paul, and he'd run in, come back here on the Space Invaders, you know.
Well, he can afford it.
Exactly. I can imagine 200 quid an hour, 24 hours, 365 days of the year, paid in advance in case you wanted to go in. I mean, that's a different world, isn't it?
Are we doing My Baby Left Me?
Well, that was great, because that was a great song to play on stage. Yeah. And it was Chaz's idea to record it, and I think the record actually came out really good. And you said Dave was not present at the recording. It was not present at most recordings, especially the one time you used to get a train on Friday. You get the 5 o'clock train. Anyway, it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. He was going to have to do a guitar overdub. And we used to have the studio in darkness. Anyway, he was down in the studio, and all of a sudden he went quiet, and we were trying to talk to him, but there's no answer. We just heard a buzz from his amplifier. He just put his guitar down and walked out and got the station. He never said anything.
That answers that one then.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point for us to wrap up on this, and we'll just have a chat now.